What is balance? We're going to talk about the beauty in balance today. And balance is where the midpoint is, where the beauty happens, the dance happens. I mean, once you have balance, you start to see the tricks. And I'll explain further. Let me just kind of give you a few examples of, where the midpoint is in the universe and how things work to try to connect it to your life so maybe you can connect further to what I'm saying. Okay, balance. So, even with the oceans, right? We have the Pacific Ocean and then we have the midpoint of where the two oceans meet, but they will not really cross over each other. There's a midpoint that kind of holds it in place. Isn't that crazy? It's beautiful because at that midpoint is where the dance happens between the oceans. But that midpoint is needed to keep the balance in between the two. Okay? So a balance is where the dance happens. Another example, and when you ride a bike, if you lean too much to the left, you can't ride it straight. If you lean too much to the right, you may just fall down. But at the balance, now when you have your balance, that's just the beginning of it, because after you get your balance, you can do the tricks. That's where the dance happens. You can pop a wheelie. You can do an endo. You can do so many different tricks. But first, you got to find the balance on the bike. Right? That's just something simple. Another one, with the world, we have the north, the south, and the equator. We have the midpoint. Guys, the midpoint is where the tricks happen. The midpoint is where the dance happens between the two. And it's beautiful. You start to see everything dance together, right? There's the north and the south pole. There's the so-called positive and negative. Now, in life, I don't judge things as good and bad. It just is, right? But let's say the so-called bad things and good things happen. And then when you have your balance, you start to see that the two correspond together, that one cannot exist without the other. So with the midpoint is where you start to see the dance, the beautiful tricks. So guys, you need to find your balance. So, we had different videos that we spoke about, like when you get angry, think about something good so your energy transforms. And the reason for that is to balance out your energy. Now, with balance, we're going to get deeper into it. So, you have your mind, right? You have your mind. You know what? Let's write it down lower. You have the mind. You have the mind, which is what we all have. All human beings have it. Okay? You just got to learn how to use it. Guys, it exists. It's within you. Just learn how to use it. The mind, okay, is the balance between the spirit and this 3D world, our life, right? Our 3D life. This our bodies, the world that we see, the things that we perceive. Your mind is the balance between the spirit and the 3D. Now, if you start to go all the way to the 3D world, you don't see the beauty of the spirit. If you start to go crazy and go just for the spirit without understanding the world, you don't see the beauty of how the spirit and the world correspond. Okay? When you start to connect the two at the mind, you start to control it, because this is where the beauty happens, when there's balance between the two. Balance is where the tricks happens. Balance is where the beautiful dance happens between the two. We need balance. You can't have too much of something and too little of something. It works like that with everything. There's got to be balance with work, with family, with the mind. Do you understand that if your brain and if your mind and your body is not balanced, you start to get sick. You start to get diseases because there is no balance between the mind and the body. Guys, when you start to stress the mind all day long, it doesn't stay balanced. It starts to go crazy. There's no balance there. So when there's no balance, there's destruction, guys. So a balance is where the beauty happens. But now, to get into the balance part, you need to stop judging the 3D world. I need to stop judging the spirit world. Stop telling God what to do, okay? Stop telling God to show you what you understand. If you understand God, then it's not God that you're praying to. You're not supposed to understand what God has planned for you. Otherwise, it wouldn't be God doing the work. Do you understand that? Okay? So balance is where the true stuff happens, guys. At the midpoint is where you start to see both ways. You start to see two things and then you start to connect it. It's like having two eyes, you know. You start to see this one and that corresponds and we start to see one thing. Think about it. Your left eye is not looking at the door while my door right here, or the right eye looking at the ceiling, right? I'm looking right at you guys right now. Both eyes are looking at you, so both eyes connect and there's balance. So I have clear vision. Balance, guys. But you need two to have the balance. Okay? That's very important. Okay. So now balance starts to get deep, okay? We may have, let's say, a great business, but not a good life at home, and not a good relationship with friends, and not good relationship with people because we just know how to make money. That's it, you know? So there's no balance in your life. When there's no balance in your life, you become unhappy. You start to self-destruct. You understand? When there's balance, when you start to care about your job and your family and your body and your mind, when you start to balance everything out, they all work together, guys. Everything works together. You understand? You don't get sick if you take care of your body and your mind. If your mind and your body is not corresponding, that's how diseases happen. It drives me crazy. Like, we keep trying to fix the effects of what the mind did to the body, but we don't try to fix the mind to give us a different effect. So guys, stop fixing the symptoms. Start fixing what caused it. The mind causes it, but you need to find your balance, guys. Balance works with everything in life. With communication, with in courtrooms, you have the attacker, the defender, and the judge that tries to balance things out. You have with your job, with your bodies, with your mind, everything's a balance. Guys, you gotta start balancing yourself like it's a bike, and then you can start popping a wheelie, doing endos, and now people are looking at you because you're able to do all these tricks. But all you did was balance. You balanced the spiritual world and the 3D world, okay? Everything needs balance. And once you get balance, that's where the beauty and the tricks happen. Because without balance, without the mind, for example, the spirit and the 3D world, they don't correspond, right? There's got to be a midpoint to connect the two. There's a midpoint to connect the two. I mean, a light bulb, right? A light bulb, for example. You take a light bulb, it will not turn on without the positive and the negative. Now, is the negative good or bad? No. Is the positive good or bad? No. But you need the two to connect the light in order to see clearer. You need both, and this is the result of that. You need two to create the result. You need the good and the bad to create the result. Now again, I just want to emphasize this one more time. There's no such thing as good and bad. It just is, okay? This is just a term I'm trying to use for you guys to understand, but you need to understand there is no such thing as good and bad, okay? It just is. So find the balance in your life. Find the balance in your emotions. And when your emotions is not balanced, everything becomes chaotic. Your weeks, your months, your years, it's just destruction and bad, and there's no connection between the good and the bad. Now, you don't want to be overly excited on something because you're going to miss some negative frequencies, right? Lower frequencies. Again, it's not good or bad. It's just higher frequencies and lower frequencies. You can't be so high up and say that this doesn't exist. And you can't be so low saying that the highs doesn't exist. You have to understand that both exist, and when you connect the two, you start to play tricks. So ladies and gentlemen, do you want to start doing tricks in your life? Because I know I do. Well, find your balance. Thank you. See you on the next one.